What's up, everybody? Hope y'all are doing good. So, y'all, if there's one thing in life that I absolutely love learning about is psychology, and especially psychology surrounding relationships and love. And a lot of that stems from the fact that I had a very unhealthy, unlucky love life through almost all of my 20s. And I've already been married one time, divorced. So, when it came to relationships, I really was not dealt very good cards, I guess, but also a lot of it was my fault. Whether back then I didn't really realize it. I do now, and I've learned from it. But, I find it so interesting that looking back, I wanted a relationship so bad. I wanted to find the perfect person and live happily ever after, but I was just so self-sabotaging, and it's like, I was destroying things without even realizing it. And I learned that through doing like a lot of research into this area of relationships and love, and through a lot of looking within myself and trying to grow as a person. But really, one of the things that comes to relationships that I find the most interesting is, why are people unfaithful? And why there is so much infidelity. And I have been cheated on in the past, and it sucked, and it absolutely broke my heart. I've never cheated on anybody. I can honestly say that with a complete clear conscience. I have never done that. That's something that I have never been willing to do, never wanted to do, and I would never let myself do that. I draw the line there. That's just, I take my relationships and my previous marriage I did, my marriage now, I take it very seriously, and it's something that I try to put my whole being into to keep healthy, alive, and thriving, because that's just the life I am built for. I am built for married life. I am built to have children, to be a father, and to live that kind of life. And it hurts me that there are other people out there like me, in the gay community, that they want the same thing that I do, and they get with people that claim they want that same thing, but their actions show otherwise. And I think that's one of the problems and one of the reasons why there is so much infidelity that goes on in the gay community, y'all. And there's infidelity everywhere. I know that. It's in the straight community. It's been happening since the beginning of time. So I'm not trying to point any one particular group out, but that's just who I relate to, because I am a gay man. I've only dated men. And so I feel like that's what I should speak on. So there's that. But, I feel like in the gay community, a lot of gay men deep down know that they are not monogamous. And I do believe that there are people out there that are not monogamous. They don't want to be, but they feel like they have to be because of societal norms. That's something that has been placed on us as a very, young child, that this is how it should be. This is what you do. This is what is expected of you. And, a lot of people that do come out as gay, a lot of families, they, disown, they don't like it, they don't support. And, they turn their back on the person who came out. And, when you're already going through that, you don't want to be like, oh, and I'm also not monogamous, and I don't want, to get married and settle down, and, because then they're going to look at you with like a double whammy that you're even crazier than what you are. And also that's something that is hard to admit because of judgment. You tell someone that, hey, I'm polyamorous, I am not monogamous. That is not the life that I want to live. And you get judged pretty harshly on that. Not by everybody. Somebody tells me that, I'm not going to judge someone on that. I think it's very brave and respectful that you have the balls to admit that to yourself and admit that to other people, and, take responsibility for who you are, what you are, and what you want. Someone who cannot own up to it and who cannot admit to it, those are the people that end up getting involved with someone knowing they have no business being with that person, knowing deep down they are not a match, but they get with them anyways because they feel they have to, or either they just feel very lonely, they feel very desperate, and then boom, they're together, and then one of them cheats, and, it damages people. It would screw people up for the rest of their life. Because the people like me that are not like that, you get with people that they're deep down, they don't want the same life you do, and it causes a lot of trauma. Because after I got cheated on, I've been cheated on twice, probably more than that. It's just what I know about. I had a lot of problems, even more problems with relationships after that happened to me. It makes you not trust people in a way that is hard. It's hard to move on and to be with someone and to trust that they are not going to hurt you like the previous person did. And it absolutely sucks, because it is, it's hard to get close to someone when you're always, you got this wall built up, and you're always wondering what they're doing or who they're with, or do they love you? Are they gonna cheat on you too? And it sucks to live like that. I know that it took me a long time to get over that, but and I think that's one reason why in the gay community that a lot of like unfaithfulness and infidelity happens, is because we don't want to admit to ourselves of what we really want. And also another thing is, I feel like gay men suffer from so much loneliness. And a lot of people cheat due to loneliness, unfulfillment in life. They don't know who they are, they don't know what they want, they don't know where they want to go in life, and they want the comfort of being with someone, or they want attention. Because I feel like everybody has times through their life where they want attention. That's part of being human. Attention feels good. It's just something that people like. It makes you feel wanted. It makes you feel loved. And so, you get into a relationship, and over time, relationships, they ebb and flow of how you feel. There's going to be times when you're with someone, your partner, that you may feel like you hate them. There's days you're going to be so madly in love. And the honeymoon phase at the beginning does not last forever. There's going to come a time where you're going to get comfortable with each other. Things are going to die down. And a lot of people are, they're upset by that when it does die down. They're shocked. They're like, oh, I must not be in love anymore. They get to where they miss that phase in the relationship. And so they seek it out elsewhere. They want attention from someone else because maybe they're grieving, what they had. And, it sucks being with their partner and knowing that feeling is not there. So deep down you feel like, what if it's over? You don't want to be left. You don't want that person to come to you and be like, hey, it's over, and you be the one that was left. And I know that sounds pretty twisted, but that is actually a thing. There's a lot of people that would rather leave someone than be left, and that is one reason why they seek out attention, to other people, is because they like to feel that they have someone, have a backup in case things at home go south and turn sour. And that's what happened to me. I had someone, we got into a relationship, and we were together for a long time. It was like 4 years, and things got comfortable. And what about that's strange is that I was a total opposite. He was very much just into the honeymoon phase and feeling in love and all the excitement, but I was more happy in the comfortable stage where we our life merged together. We built a life, and things just they just worked. We just had a family. We were the type, we went and did stuff together, but we also had our own life. We focused on each other, but we also had hobbies and friends and interests outside of the relationship that we focused on. And I was very content like that, but he was not. And so that's, one reason why he went out and, did what he did with the person that he met. And, I found that out, and I just was shocked because I did not feel that way. And I absolutely did not understand that. And he hit it so well. Lack of communication absolutely will destroy a relationship faster than anything will. And that's what happened with us was, he didn't come to me and communicate. And so we were not able to fix it. We were not able to work it out. Instead of doing that, he took an action that ended up costing him, our whole relationship, because the way he went about it. And then, when I caught him, he lied about it. I mean, it ruined the whole thing. I just was never going to be able to trust him again because the whole situation was just so messed up. There's so many details that, I'm not going to share on here because, I'm not saying any names. I'm not going to bash anybody, but it was some of the stuff that I learned and seen and that I found out was pretty sick. And unfortunately, I just knew that I was not going to be able to get past that because every time I looked at them, I didn't look at them the same anymore. And, you know, I would get my mind off of it for a while, and then I would think about it again, and it's like it would happen all over again, those feelings. And I just couldn't do that to myself. I couldn't live like that, and I just, you know, I had to move on. But moving on was hard because I carried that trauma and those negative feelings with me for so many years after that. And, you know, I lost a lot of people, you know, dating wise, because of my issues that, you know, I didn't fix. I didn't want to face the trauma and the horrible feelings I felt from that, because, you know, it was uncomfortable. No human likes to emotionally feel uncomfortable. It absolutely sucks. Mental and emotional pain to me is worse than physical pain. You know, maybe I'm a big wimp, and maybe I'm just a big sissy, I don't know. But I don't like feeling depressed. I don't like feeling anxious at all. I would, you know, a lot of times I sit and think to myself, you know, I would rather feel physical pain, my arm broken, than sit and feel brokenhearted. So, you know, that really messed me up. And, you know, there's just so much cheating that goes on because, you know, another thing that I have learned is there's just so many options. You know, it's so easy to find someone. All these dating apps, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good for the gay community, especially Grindr. I absolutely despise Grindr. You know, I'm not a big fan of Tinder. It gives people so many options, and it's so easily accessible. And, you know, it's just, Grindr to me has been something that is just, it's been a big downfall for gay men. It's, you know, I've been on there before, you know, I feel like every gay man has, and some of the people on there and some of the situations that I remember personally were pretty sick. And it was a bunch of people that I remember meeting several people on that said they were married to both men and women. Some of them have children at home. And that just, you know, that really bothered me because I felt so bad for their spouse because they were being cheated on and lied to. And I just, you know, I remember going through that myself, and, you know, I would never, ever wish that on my worst enemy. So, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope y'all got something out of it at least. I kind of just rambled on. I could talk about this all day because I have so many, I find it so interesting why people do the things they do. So guys, if y'all relate to any of this, it sucks. I know it sucks, but it does get better. It does. It gets better, and you move on, and life gets good again. So guys, thank y'all so much for watching this video. I will be back probably in about a week or so with another one. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.